cool. A fun thing that's happening recently is that my mic is not being recognized every time I restart Streamlabs, and I forget that it happens. Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me. Hi. How y'all doing? Hopefully pretty good. Make sure I got my YouTube set up. There we go. And make sure I can see everybody and not just some folks. Hey, Enrique. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're going to be continuing our analysis thing that we've been doing. Wow, I really hope that that weird flickering is not from my streaming software. It's not. Fantastic. We're going to be continuing something that we started last week. Oh, it's because my... Okay. Sorry. On YouTube, things are getting very weird, so I'm just going to close that. What are we doing? Good question. So we worked on our project to help visualize tokens that are likely to be particularly informative for our machine learning models. Hi, Mina. Hi, Robbie. And what I mean by that is essentially transformer level model or transformer architecture models or bag of words models, which means the tokens that you include in your model in your training data have a really strong effect on your model. And what I want is a way that people can use to look at tokens which are likely to be used as sort of like yes/no deciders for whether or not a string, an input string from the user, belongs to a specific intent or not. That's what I'm going for. And to do that, we're turning back the clock to the days of statistical methods in NLP. So that would have been when I first went into grad school. I think they were like, deep learning was a thing, but it wasn't like the main method that people were using. Woo-hoo-hoo. You know what? Good point. Why don't we set this as the working not that. Thank you. Set as working directory. There we go. Okay, so now it should work. Thank you for opening the license. It's Apache 2.0. Also, this code so far should be on my GitHub. Y'all know what? This is the wrong file. Let me open this. This is the right file. I was like, why doesn't it work? That would be because I was doing something completely different. This is from the dialect bot project we were working on a while ago. Wow, wow, wow. Martha, good to see you. It's been a minute. Hope you're holding up well, doing okay. Cool. This is the actual code that we've been working on and not the other code, which was from before. So let's just walk through it and talk about what we've done so far. So what we've read in Sarah, so this is a YAML file. We've converted it into a, no, we're getting the name of the file from the data frame. We may or may not keep doing this. So my plan this week is to tidy up our visualizations and then to, tidy up our code, make it easier for someone else to use, even if they don't really know R. So I'm just like, plug in your file name here, and then you should be good to go. So this we're reading in the file, we are loading it as a YAML, and that creates a list structure in R. And then here we are taking that list, we are unlisting it, so creating a vector instead of a list. If you don't know a lot about our data structures, that is not important here. We're converting it to a matrix, and then we're converting it to a tibble, which is a type of data frame. And then we are renaming stuff. First off, we're gonna read in our libraries that we're using. There we go. Wow, And now we can look at our data frame and see what it looks like. So we have for each of the intents, so these are all FAQ intents and they're part of the same FAQ. And this data is taken from Sarah. Rasa says, could you also make a tutorial for the new Rasa lit? Yeah. Good question. Maybe. It's where what I'm gonna say there. I am having problems with IPython in there's a problem with Windows and IPython and TensorFlow, and I'm in dependency hell, and I'm having a really hard time fixing it, and it's a known issue, and I don't know what to do about it. So that's where I am currently. Specifically, it's a Python 3.8 issue, and Rasa doesn't support 3.9, so I can't go forward. And also, if I went forward, I would probably still have similar issues. You can also use YAML.load file. Oh, instead of reading end characters. Yeah. Cool. Good to know. Thanks for the information. So we have the name of the intent here, and they're all FAQs. And then here we have all of the text of the training data. And for me, it doesn't matter that, so you can see this is, you know, what it looks like. For me, it doesn't matter that the intents aren't separated out into a more structured thing. And the reason it doesn't matter is that I'm treating this as a bag of words, and a bag of words is just a big collection of tokens that are unordered and don't have any structure to them. Unmasked Crusader said, what are we doing? We are creating visualizations for identifying, using statistical methods, the tokens that are the most likely to affect your intent classification. Basically a way to pick out tokens that are likely to be used as like yes/no heuristics by your system to decide whether or not something is part of an intent or not. Enrique says, dependencies. Yeah. Unfortunately. So that's our current data structure. And then what we're doing here is we are tokenizing. So that's what this nest tokens thing is. We are grouping by. Group by is just like in SQL, the intent name, and then we are counting words. So this is frequency by intent. And if we take a look at it, you can see that we have the intent, the word, and then the count of how many times that word shows up. So this is why we don't care about structuring each of the specific examples. We're just looking at the raw number of times it shows up. Masked Crusader, I'm learning R right now. This will be great. Oh yeah, hope it helps. I do like R specifically for this type of thing. Although these days I use Python more. But you know what? They're both good. They're both good tools. You wouldn't, I was gonna say you wouldn't install a screw with a hammer. I think some people would. You shouldn't. You should use a screwdriver. It'll make your life easier. And then we create a completely unreadable matrix. And pop myself over to the other side. So this is the, I can make this bigger. Again, not very readable. That's okay. That's not the intention here. So we have here the intent on the y-axis. I always forget which one is which. And then on the x-axis, we have the word. And as you can see, it's just like a big string of text and they're overlapping. But what I want you to see is that if you look along the sort of columns here, you will see that some columns, you know, are a column, right? They go all the way down, they show up in all classes. Those words are not going to be used as heuristics, right? Those are not going to be used as yes, no, is this in a category, because they're not good discriminative features. But there's also a lot of columns where that are only filled for one specific row or maybe two rows, and those words are more likely to be used as heuristics, as very, you know, important features, because they're rarer and because they're associated with group membership. And like I mentioned, like, we are learning that transformers are basically bag of words, so word frequencies and distribution is pretty important. And by we here, I mean just sort of like the NLP community in general. That's the lesson we are learning as we learn more about these models. Also, the screen readjusts slightly when I switch from side to side, so I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. Will I remember? Who knows? I've got the attention span of a thing with a poor attention span. A puppy. Puppies don't have very good attention spans. All right. So now we are looking at different things. So here we're looking for hapex legomena, which are things that are only words that only occur once in the corpus. And what intent do they occur with? So we can look at this. So things that only occur once include advantage, against, assistant, and assistant. Those both look like correct spellings to me, but I feel like probably at least one of them isn't. And I am not a good person to ask about spellings. This is probably a misspelling of chat. We got can't, cannot, Django, exploration. So these are things that only occur once in the entire corpus, and they will be associated with a specific intent. So these are words that might lead you astray or might lead your model astray. And then we have the same thing, but looking at them by intent. So a lot of them are associated with channels. Some of them are associated with community size. Very few of them are associated with dialogue management, so on and so forth. So what, just like scrolling on through here real quick, it looks like things will probably be, this channels category seems to have a lot of unique words in it. So I feel like it's more likely that we're going to get things being identified as being in the channels intent that are not actually in the channels intent. And also, given that it has more unique words in it, we're probably also going to need a larger selection of pieces of training data, like text in it, to give our classifier a better chance of having a good idea of what this very diverse class looks like. Yeah. Faisa says, I want to work with Streamlit plus Python plus Rasa. What version would be compatible to each other? Why are Python 3.8 and 3.9 not working with Rasa? Okay, so specifically, Rasa 2.x, so Rasa 2 plus will work with Python 3.8. Prior to Rasa 2x, the highest version of Python that you would work with is Python 3.7. We do not currently support Python 3.9, so that's our current compatibility stuff. And the reason that I'm doing this in R is because doing statistics and making charts in Python is significantly harder for me than it is in R. So I think what also would be helpful, given that what I think this view is most helpful for is giving you an understanding of which of your intents have a lot of unique words, would be to count the number of unique words per intent and give a quick visualization of that. So let me do that real quick in here. Oh my gosh. That's the one. All right. And then, so what do I want? I think I actually just want the counts first. Let me do that. Because I should still be, no. So first I'm going to group by. And I'm going to group by intent, because I want to count within intent. And then I'm pretty sure it's just count. Yep, that's what I'm looking for. Fabulous. And then I'm actually going to arrange by n. So I sort them, and then I'm going to sort them the other direction so that I have the highest at the top. And then I'm going to graph that using ggplot. And so that on the X, that on the Y, and then geom bar. And I think I'm probably going to get an error at this point. Yes. And I got the error because I used the wrong symbol in there. All right, stat count must not be used with a Y aesthetic. Okay, so I think actually I just don't need that. Do I need to specify X and Y? It's one of those things I almost always end up looking up. Count n. All right, I'm just gonna look it up. Ggplot bar count. Do gm bar mapping null data no stat count. Okay, so actually I think I don't want n. I think I want word. Let me see an example. Class. So it's going to be the count of class. So I just need the count of intent. And that should actually be all I need. I think I'm making my life too difficult. Fabulous. Okay, yep, that's what I'm looking for. Those numbers look in the right range. All right. And I'm sure they're going to have something on ordering the bars here because that's going to be the second thing I'm looking for. Do that in another tab. Geom bar order by count. Geom bar, how to order the bars in a GGU2 plot bar chart. All right. Geom bar, factor levels based on numerical value. Oh, yeah. Okay. I vaguely remember this. All right, so we're gonna reorder intent, function. Can I just do that? Will that work? Not if I don't close my parentheses, it won't. Also, if I misspell the function, that will also not work. Okay, so x, index. No applicable methods for summarize a excuse me. No applicable methods of summarize applied to object of class character. Nope. Let's see. So in the example, they're using length. Ah, okay, fabulous. And actually, I want them the other way. There we go. Fabulous. Okay, so from here, what I need to do is I need to tilt the. Here, we can just make this bigger so we can take a look at it for a sec. So here we have the function along the x-axis, sorry, the intent along the x-axis, the number of unique words along the y-axis, so words that only occur once and only occur in that intent, and geombar automatically puts count on the y-axis. Oh yeah. What RIDE am I using? I am using RStudio. Oh, it's just off the top there. Yep, this is RStudio. Okay, so now I'm gonna do my general plot thing. Tilt axis text 45 degrees in R. Rachel, do you have to Google this every time? You betcha. Every time. I remember that it's a text thing. How to rotate text labels in geom jitter. There we go. Okay. And I want it actually at a 45 and not a 90. And then we need to shift it down by 1. And HJust is doing that, so it's horizontal just. Yeah, fabulous. I think that is pretty helpful. And then I need to, think it's XLab. Nope, it's not XLab. Maybe it's X_lab. I am trying to remember something that I usually look up, and we'll see how it goes. Nope. Remove X label GG plot 2. That's the one. Wait, did we already do this in another one and I can reuse it? Nope. Okay, so it's axis title.x. I was very off. There we go. Fabulous. Okay. So this is a way for us to identify the specific intents that are likely to need more training data. Other questions? Plotting statistics. I'm lucky I'm working with R. Yeah, R is such a good language to do the specific thing that I'm doing in. Anything other than RStudio? For R IDEs, I mean, I would say RStudio is like the Cadillac, at least in my opinion. I really like RStudio. I do know that JetBrains is working on a new one that I think it's called Data Spell. I actually just joined the early access program, but I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet. So if you're a PyCharm user, that might be a good option. Jupyter works for R as long as you have the R kernel. That's another popular option. Also, the R language comes with a built-in IDE. It is retro. It's a little vapor wavy. For simple tasks and projects, if you don't want to install anything other than the base R language, that's an option. Because, Rachel, why does the programming language have a built-in IDE? Because making graphs is a huge part of the IDE, is a huge part of the R workflow. And the assumption is that you want to make charts and graphs and also that you're a statistician. And just to give you an idea of sort of the ethos of R, if you read in a CSV and then you plot it, it will give you a plot. Like it may not be a helpful plot, it may not be readable, but like plot is a core function in R. So little R detour there. All right. So that looks pretty good to me. And so if this were the only project I was doing with and I didn't want this, I didn't care about extensibility of this code, I would get rid of the FAQ bit there at the bottom. But because I think it is important that you know whether or not something is part of an FAQ intent or not, I'm going to leave that off. And also, remember way up here where I got the file name? Rachel remembers. I think I can actually just do that. I don't think I want to do it separately. What are you doing, Rachel? What are you up to? I'm going to use it for the title. There we go. So this is just to make life easier for people who want to run this over a lot of files. So this way you know which file you are looking at. So for example here, I would say I'm probably going to want more data for the channels and the languages, particularly if the words that are unique there are not ones that are very close to each other in a vector space, and you could use like wetlies or like any visualization package to figure out if they're close in a vector space. Whereas like Rasa Playground and Python version and dialogue management, those don't have a whole lot of unique words in them. I would feel pretty safe just being like, I will have as much training data as I have. These seem like they're pretty internally consistent, or at least they don't have like lots of little like fringes on the outside in the vector space that it's going to take a lot more data and training iterations to trace around, if that makes sense. Whew. All right. Let's move on. So I think that's super helpful. I think trying to remember how to concatenate strings. I think it's just you just concat like so. Words intents with more unique words may need more training data. That didn't work. All right. Oh, it did not work because I am bad at parentheses. Paste strings in R. Great. I think I actually want this in parentheses. I think that would be slightly more helpful. Fantastic. So when you run this, whatever file name you insert, you will get whatever file name you insert, you will get that at the top, and then you'll get it sorted and whatnot. And then you'll get like this little helpful text. And if there's like a whole bunch of intents, this may not be super helpful, but also if there's a whole bunch of intents, hopefully you already have a lot of training data because that's a hard problem. Robbie says str_c. Yeah, for concatenating strings. Thank you. I was like, I'll use an F string. Hold up. F strings are a Python thing. So far so good. I think this is really helpful. I don't need this. Peace out. So this is intents with a lot of unique words. So this is knowledge at an intent level. And this one is a list of words that only show up in a single intent. So if we take a look at this, you can see I also have the frequency data. So for a specific intent, right, this is the type frequency. I mean, all of these words only show up once, so the token frequency is normalized. For this one, these are words that are unique to each class, but are not unique in the corpus. And I think actually I want to get rid of words that only show up exactly. Do I? No, because words that show up exactly once may still be used as a heuristic by the system. So I think it's important that we have words that show up exactly once. And the thing that is more urgent is that we know that words that are both unique to an intent and frequent within that intent are very likely to be used as heuristics, and we should be able to have a quick way to check that those are consistent with our understanding of how the intent should work. Period. I keep talking, there's nothing else to do there. So I think what makes sense here is, how can I visualize this well? I think this makes sense as a I think this makes sense as a I want to see the words. Frequency is important. Relative frequency is also important. I want to see it on a per intent basis. So I think what I want to do But the other thing is the frequency is not very. So what I'm thinking about here is if I like just looking at these numbers here, plot 33, 3, and like a bunch of ones, I'm gonna have a mostly empty plot, which means the text is gonna have to be small. So uh I am sacrificing being able to read the text easily for a quick visual representation of the distribution of frequencies of words that are unique to each intent. And I don't think the distribution of frequencies is actually as important as being able to look at the words. So I don't think that's a good visualization. I think what makes more sense is to I want the top 5 words by frequency for each intent in a grid of text output. Oh, and a there is a way to do this. There's a package for it. I don't remember what the package is called. And uh, I'm pretty sure it's by the same person who did Knitter. Let's see if I can find it. Uh, so I can probably pull this over. So I just looked for Knitter, which is a way of doing inline figures. And animation, Apex, book down, Braille R, Cider, Core Plot, Dev Tools, dplyr, formatter, tidy source to format R code, base indents. Oh, that's nice. It's a linter. Well, it sounds like it's maybe a little bit more than a linter. ggplot2 based on a grammar of graphics, ggplot2 higher, HMISC, HTML tools, HTML widgets, API client, Knitter Bootstrap, Leaflet, Markdown. Is this what I'm thinking about? I don't think it is. Hands-on table widget. And then we're gonna have to deal with widgets, and I want this to be as flat as possible, ideally. Server sharper shiny tested 3JS text. I don't remember what it's called. I may have to ask on Twitter. Get holes, dev tools. Okay, I think what makes sense to do now is not to spend too much time working on making beautiful visualizations. I've also been thinking about the best way to do this in a way that's going to be helpful for people, and I think that making a Markdown report will make sense. So let me just like start a to-do section up here. To do remake into a Markdown report generator, because then what you should be able to do is just open up the R code, put your file name with your intents in here, click compile, and then get a generated report out, and then I can add some explanatory text. And I think that would make a lot of sense and be really helpful for folks to help get an intuition of their data and the distributions within it. So I think that makes a good sense for the output rather than doing some sort of like fancy HTML stuff. Not least because the thought of dealing with HTML widgets makes me want to take a nap. I think I mentioned this before. Front end folks, y'all are heroes. Thank you. Not my cup of tea, I would say, but I appreciate every second of work that goes into it. I really, really do. Yes. And if it's Markdown, then I think we can just do like tables in line. And I think that'll be helpful because we can put them as an appendix at the end of the document, but I think people will want to see them. Okay. So this is just a fabulous. All right. What sorry, what this is these are for an intent, words that are unique to that intent, and the total number of times that they appear in the training data. So for voice appears 63 times. That's a good heuristic. I want my assistant to pick up on that. For slots appears. That's a good heuristic. I want my assistant to pick up on that. Is programming require? Programming shows up. Again, yes, correct. That's good. Channels. Open source cost. Rasa playground. Channels, messaging. So like IM messaging, I think that's fine. Software much and free are all associated with the open source cost, which again I think makes sense. Fine. I think this is like, does it cost much? Actually, much in particular, I might add as an example to like a couple other pieces of training data just to make my life easier. Because that I would say is not a super informative word. If I'm seeing things mislabeled in this particular intent, it might be because of much if all of the other words are pretty frequent across categories. So that one I might keep an eye on. But the rest of these make a lot of sense. Like I think free makes sense when talking about open source. Yeah. Faisa says, I have a question. How do you deal with your file setups? I mean, how do you sort and figure out what file is this and that? Yeah, so there's actually generally this is not a very fancy package. This isn't very fancy right now. I just have our project, my data, and then I'm doing everything in a single file right now, and I'll bump it over to a markdown file later. For working on data science projects in particular, there's sort of a set way of doing it. Like there's a set way of setting up your project structure. I mean, like different places will have their own, and if you're working in a company and they have one, use theirs. But there is a specific project called Cookie Cutter Data Science that I'd say most people generally tend to use this file structure. And here it is. You have like the license, the make file, the README on the top level, your data in another file that's separated by what you've done to it, your docs and your models and your notebooks all in separate files, all in separate folders, your reports in a separate folder, your references in a separate folder, requirements.txt on the top level, setup.py on the top level, etc. So this is sort of the general way that people tend to structure data science projects in particular. For structuring Rasa projects, the general way of doing it is that you have a lot of stuff is in your top level domain. So like your endpoints, your config, your domain, your requirements, your your license, your README, those will all be on the top level. And then the files that we have within it would be the NLU, the data file. The data folder will have your NLU, your stories, your rules. Your model file will have your models. I think that's like the minimal project structure you tend to see with a Rasa project. So there's usually a way to structure projects. And as for how to keep track of them, I put most of my stuff on GitHub if I intend to use it. If it's not just something that I'm doing just once, and I'm very confident I will do it just once, then I put it in a project repo with just enough information for me to know what's going on, unless other people are working with me on it actively. Hopefully that helps. It was a little bit of a big explanation. Hi Tuan, welcome from Vietnam. Pretty late for you, so thank you for tuning in. All right. So I'm pretty happy with this output. And this can be really quickly rejiggered to run across a bunch of files, so I'm pretty happy with that. This one, we do have a plot that is unreadable. So here we have the words, and here we have the intents that they occur in. So this is another way of sort of presenting that same piece of evidence I showed you earlier with the overall frequency plot. Um, some words will occur in, wait, something's up with this plot. Wait. Yes. Okay, so these are all unique words. These are words that only show up in one intent. I was like, a lot of these words should have like big bars. They should show up in all the intents. Okay, so we've already filtered for words that only show up in one intent. And you can see that this some intents have lots of unique words, and some intents have few unique words, and lots of intents have no unique words. So these intents between, sorry, you can hear my dog, like 35 and 50 don't have any unique words associated with them. Um, yeah, so you can see that again, like some of these intents have a lot of unique words, and those are ones that we're probably going to need to make sure that we have a lot of training data for, because again, if you think about this in like, I use this metaphor a lot. If you think about it as like a fruit salad suspended in jello, this is an American thing. Jello is like a gelatinous dessert. It's usually sweet, and you can embed things in it. And if you think of sort of that three-dimensional space, right? If you have two different types of things embedded, if you have like a tight pocket of raisins and all of the raisins are in a little group, it's really easy to describe the shape of the group of raisins. So you probably don't need as much data. You probably don't need as much training time. If, on the other hand, you have like a scatter of, I don't know, candied almonds or whatever's in there, it's going to take, if they're really widely distributed, it's going to take more data to draw and describe the outline of the almond shape. And you know, if you get a lot of data points, they may be not distributed very closely and carefully in the groups. You may have like a bunch of data points here, but also like a smattering of them down here. And is that representative of the underlying population, or like are there actually two groups? So things that are easy to guess and people have a very strong way of expressing, and it's very consistent and your users say it pretty consistently, those are easy intents. Intents that users might express in a variety of different ways, but you still want to be able to capture, are more difficult intents. And this, what I'm working on here is sort of visualizations to help you get an idea of what intents are likely to be hard intents and what intents are likely to be easy intents. The hard intents, you're going to need more training data. You might need to like rejigger the intents, maybe split them into multiple intents, maybe put them all in an FAQ. Hard to say specifically what the best solution will be, but this is just a way to identify which intents are hard. So given that, we already have information about which intents have the most unique words. So given this, we know that like this one here that has a lot of unique words, this is this channel's one. Oh no, these are unique words that only occur once. I want this same thing, but with unique words that occur more than once. Yeah. Okay, so let's actually do that. Stop this, and we should be able to just reuse this code wholesale. Column intent is unknown. I imagine someone is having the gall to actually be in the hallway outside our apartment. How dare! How dare! Yep. Okay. So this also for me really patterns. So again, channels and languages were the two with the most words that were unique, and these are words that are unique to the text, not unique words in the corpus by the intent that they're associated with. I think this is more helpful than this. It's very similar. You can see there's a big difference in community size, right? So this is telling me that there are, of the words that are unique to community size, quite a few of them are not unique in the corpus. And it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of rearranging. Mostly the order looks pretty stable, and also the sort of shape of the distribution looks pretty stable. So I was talking about earlier, like easy intents versus hard intents. This is all behind my head. Let me move me. Boop. Easy intents versus hard intents. I would say that there's like a line here, right? So these intents, you can't see my mouse. Get bigger. So you see the sort of elbow in the graph. So it sort of like goes down and then there's a step and then it stays down. So the ones that it stays down on, I would say that those intents are going to be pretty easy to no. No, they're not. There's a difference. Okay, sorry, I'm just thinking through things. Not having a lot of unique words does not necessarily mean that it's going to be easier to identify the intent, because more of the words that are used to describe, that are produced when the desired output is that they are the intent, are going to be shared with other intents. Yeah. So what we get here is that what's the most helpful so for this plot, I don't think that this sort of top line understanding that intents with more unique words may need more training data is actually as helpful, because it's not actually a problem if people do use a unique word only with a specific intent, especially if they're using it a lot. And given that we already have a way of expressing, the hapax legomenon, words that occur only once in the corpus, I think this would be more helpful with excluding the words that only occur once in the corpus, because right now we're including them, and those are going to be less stable heuristics. Yeah. Hi, Liz. Robbie says it's not readable. Yeah, I don't think you really need to read the labels. The important thing here is the shape. Enrique says lots of everything. Yeah. Hi, native learner. Good to see you. Naive learner. Sorry. So I think what I want to do is I want to remake this chart, but I want to remove words that only occur once. So this is what words have stable, what intents have tokens which are stable heuristics associated with them, and how many are there? What diversity is there in those stable heuristics? Although I will say whether or not something is a heuristic is going to depend on your model and not on your data, but your model does depend on your data. So it's like a second order effect, if that makes sense. If I'm losing y'all, just let me know. This is very much like it's like that like fun effect they use with like the math stuff around, except for me, I'm thinking about fruit salad in Jello. Okay, so we're gonna redo this thing, except what we are going to do now. So what do you look like right now? You look like so. All right. So we're gonna filter. Actually, I want to add something here. Number of not Apex Legends, Jiminy Cricket. That's how it's spelled. Hapex legomenon. Number of Hapex legomenon per intent. And I'm not going to describe what Hapex legomenon is in this little thingadoogle, because it would take way more space than I have on this, and also you can Google what that is. And when I do it in Markdown, I can give more information about it within the text. So what we're doing here, he's very upset about the hallway. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's hopefully you can't. Hopefully my noise canceling is working, but he ain't happy about it, I'll tell you that. So what we're doing now is we have this. I think I want to keep this stable. I want to extend it. No HL, well, that stands for Apex Legomena. Remove. Is that still in my note? This is great. It's like being in an NLP time machine. It's like going back to like 2010. All right, so same thing, but I'm gonna remove things that only occur once. And I've already forgotten the structure of this. N filter n does not equal 1. So at this point, we should have a list of, yeah, that's exactly what I want that to look like. Robbie says, this is optional. Can you draw a diagram, like what my thinking is? No, I'm not that good of an artist. Yeah. Also, I don't know, I really tend to think about decision reasons as being three-dimensional. I realize that it is rare for them to actually be in 3 dimensions, but that's, I guess I can imagine stuff with a 4th dimension if the 4th dimension is time, right? So you have like, you know, pieces in 3 dimension and then they shift over time. But being able to imagine how you would draw shapes around that, which is like basically that's what machine learning is, right? For classification, like this particular flavor of machine learning, you have your decision region, you have your data points, you're trying to draw little bubbles around them so that when you see something new, you know which bubble to put it in very simple terms. That's sort of what the output of a machine learning model is. All right, so I want this. And my thing that I'm really interested in here is number of tokens which are number of tokens unique to an intent used more than once. We're going to need a comma there. All right, so what is very interesting to me here? Can I pop you out? Nope, I want to pop you out. I don't think I can do that. I can make it bigger. Woo, there we go. So what's really interesting to me here, I'll pop myself over too, is there a difference between this one and this one? And there's quite a big difference. So the first 3 over here, first one's behind my head, says channels, languages, slots, dialogue management, and NLU. And when you remove the Apex Legomena, it is open source cost, channels, programming required, voice, languages, community size. And there are a few of them. So given this, I would expect open source cost to be a class that we are really good at identifying if the data that is incorporated into the training data is a good representation of the data that we see in production. And I would expect whatever that EE, so the 2 little ones over all the way on that side are EE and what is forum. Actually, the ones that I would expect to have, if we are expecting robust association with a specific token to be a good heuristic, and if these heuristics are ones that we think have an actual relationship and not a spurious relationship, then a lack of these tokens does not necessarily imply more difficulty in identifying those categories, but having a lot of those tokens, as long as they are not spurious, may imply a more stable category, assuming a strong relationship between the term, assuming a strong relationship between the data that we have and the data that users are using. at this point, this data has come from many rounds of CDD. This is predominantly user data from when Sarah was deployed in our docs. It's down right now for updating and maintenance. But yeah. Yeah. Pika Pika says, my life is Apex Legomina these days. People only say unique tokens to you. They're all like, applesauce, fiduciary. No one uses any determiners. No one says the something complicated stuff. Yeah, stuff's going on right now for everybody, I think. And just a refresher, the Apex Legomina are things that only occur once in a context. So words that only occur once in a book, words that only occur once in a corpus. They are, I will say this is a more helpful measure for English, which does not have a lot of morphological complexity. So you are more likely to see things only you are less likely to see things only show up once because we don't tend to add a bunch of morphemes to words. So if you're looking at the word level, this works quite well for English. If you're looking at like the lemma level, it's more extensible to other languages. And the reason there's a term for it is because saying tokens which only occur once in the context in which you are searching is a mouthful. Yeah. Okay, so I think what do I want to say here? What's a good takeaway from this? If you notice, what is a good takeaway for these? Number of tokens unique to intent. Which are not. I was going to say, like, which don't show up in the training corpus only one time, but that's also like a big. It's a mouthful. I don't want to put that much text on my graph. Uh, excluding words that only show up once. Yeah, because if it's unique to an intent in the corpus, then it's also unique in the corpus. So we don't need to specify that it is unique in the corpus and it is unique in the intent, because being unique in the intent implies if a word is unique in an intent and it only occurs one time, that implies that it only occurs one time in the corpus. So I don't think we need to specify that further. Yeah. Hello, Detox Mango. Welcome. Yeah, if you got a question, we can chat about it, perhaps. Okay, so and I think it would also be helpful to like get this to do break down by intent and add to Markdown. Yeah. Amina says, how do you deal with letters with diacritics? So letters that have, accent marks or additional stuff on them. Sometimes people use it, other times they won't use it. Should we consider it two verbs or strip it of the accent? I would say it depends on what your users are using. If people use it both ways, then I would keep it because there might be some underlying difference there. And you can also add them back. So that process is called diacritic normalization. Itchy eyes. And I'm looking for. Yeah, I would. I think there's a problem with probably how I spelled it because I am only seeing results for removing them completely. I would not, in general, I don't recommend removing diacritics from languages that have diacritics, because you will, usually if a language has diacritics, they are used to distinguish between words. And if you remove them, text that is intended to be one word will be another word at least sometimes. And I think that in general is a good thing to avoid, because ambiguity is hard. It's hard for humans, and it's really hard for machine learning systems. How to speak with a recruiter if I qualify for data science or quant role. I just reach out to the recruiter. Yeah, I think it would be fine. Send him your resume and be like, hey, I'm interested in this role. Do you think I'm a good fit? Or like, what additional qualifications would I need? Is what I would do. Oh, yeah. We'll redo that one. And then also, I think it would be helpful to get a list of words, or get a list of intents without likely not to have a strong token level heuristic. I want this one. Filter. N equals 1. So now we should only have ones that are like so. Fabulous. And then I just want select intent. So I'm just going to get the column with the intents, and then I just want the unique to get rid of the. There we go. Okay, that's not exactly what I'm getting. Also, I'm in front of my code. I did not notice. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm thinking about what I think I'm doing, what I'm actually doing. What I'm actually doing is, what I'm noticing here is that there is overlap between these and these, and that's because one, it is not necessarily the case. Did I group by? Shorted. Okay, so I think what I want to do is, I got it. I know what I'm doing. So what I want to do is I want to take the unique ones. I then want to group by intent. Right, so I'm teaching each intent separately, and the group by should maintain the classes that I then remove when I filter only unique ones. Okay, so now we have 14, and then here we have 18. Okay. Actually, I don't need to group by. I don't need to. Where's the last time I had the full list of intents? FREQ by intent. In file name, df name. I think df name is the last time I had a full list of intents. So what I want to do is I want to look at all my intents, which is here. Fabulous. Okay, so there's 20 of them. I don't care about the group by, right? So here are, I don't actually need to do that. I've already done this. So we have this list of words that are likely to have, this list of intents that are likely to have strong heuristics at the token level. And then we want to look at the intents there, right? And then we want to look at the intents that are not in that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to look at the list of names. Yeah. So that's going to be a numeric 14 here. So this is a Boolean vector, and I want the inverse of this. Oh, I think I can just group them all and then get the inverse. Yes. Okay, that works. Excellent. So here we have NLU, and it should not be in here. And sure enough, it is not. All right. Fantastic. List of intents likely not to have a strong token level heuristic may have a okay. So these are the these are the list of intents that do not have a unique term that is used only in that intent more than one time. And you may be like, Rachel, there's 20 of our total intents, and only 6 of them don't have these unique words. And I would say that that is fairly typical for me. I'm the user of this said you were doing a Rasa demo on YouTube, right? Yeah, I do. I also stream to the Rasa YouTube channel simultaneously. So we've also used Rasa there. This is more this is something that you would do as part of building a Rasa assistant, but not necessarily in Rasa. Oh, and then sorry, Ravi, I was just thinking really hard. Ravi says just another way to do it. Thank you. It is important to check this for spurious words, since your system doesn't know for spurious words, ones that are very statistically informative but may not actually be associated with your intended intent by your users in prod. Okay, I think that that is a good these intents are likely not to be strongly influenced by single tokens. There we go. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop. And hopefully this has some like pretty helpful recommendations. So it's, I think one of the things that's most challenging for people who are new to the NLP space and haven't built a similar system before is developing these intuitions about word frequencies and how the distribution of words affects everything. I realize that it's not sort of the core methods that we're using right now don't require you to manually have this information and know about it, but the methods we're using do pick up on this, right? They are using these statistical cues of word frequency and word co-occurrence um, in a very direct way that if you do not investigate within your data set, you probably don't know about, especially if it's your data set's very large and you can't read it all. And as a result, some of the surprising results you can get from an NLP system can be due to the statistical distribution of these words. And if you've been working in an LP for a long time, you probably have like, oh yeah, just looking through, like, I don't know why umbrella's in here, I'm just gonna remove it. And like developing those instincts, takes time. Um, and you can kind of get around it by just having an enormous amount of data. But if you're doing, a bespoke NLP, task specific, you're probably not going to have an enormous amount of data. So being able to understand how the fact that a corpus is small, a corpus is sampled, not only from all language use, but also from the specific application of language use that you're interested in being able to model, and that the way that that sampling is done can result in either a corpus that is a good representation of the underlying data structures, or a corpus that may still be able to capture that, but probably has some unique outliers that are going to affect your system. And if you are imagining what the distribution of data looks like and trying to create new data points that match your imagined distribution, your imagined distribution may not match the actual way that people are speaking when they use the system. I think anyone who's worked with chatbots will tell you, users surprise you. They will do things you never intended. And I think that's delightful. I think the sort of the human element of systems is really interesting and fun, and makes this a challenging, hard, cool place to work. But um, you can mitigate these effects by, doing conversation-driven development, by using user data as soon as possible, by getting test users as soon as possible. And you can exacerbate these problems by, any sort of generated text has the potential to exacerbate these problems. Whether that's machine generated or that's you as the developer sitting down, not as a user of the system, and thinking about what users are likely to say. And that will introduce some sort of statistical shift between your training data and the data that you see in production. So it's a big long-winded way to say language varies, understanding how it varies and being able to have tools to be like, oh, this is something that that we should know about and we should think about, can help you overcome really surprising and hard to detect problems. And this is unique to machine learning, and this is unique to machine learning about language in particular, in a way that like a pure software engineering background may not prepare you for, and may leave you very surprised by. Yeah. Detox Mabel says, have you read papers and blog posts or books? Yes. I do have a PhD, so in a computational sociolinguistics was my specific area of specialization. So I have read many papers, many papers. And we have a reading group on Wednesdays, Thursdays, yesterday, where we read papers as well. Felipe says, will you do it in Python? Probably not. This is the sort of thing where like you can do it in Python. I am just less comfortable. Maybe, I don't know. And Pico says, I think it's in English. It is in English. Whew. All right, so that was a lot. Hopefully it wasn't too much of me staring off into space, like imagining numbers. Uh, cool, thank you for that. Let me make sure, save this, there we go. So, I don't know if we'll work on this next week or not. I think it might be helpful for me to just like tap the research team and get their, quant trading papers. No. Sorry, I thought you meant quant is just like general quantitative, but no, I am not. I am not in the finance sector. I would say that that is an area that I do not find particularly appealing personally. Although I think Vincent and Yusta from Rasa both have econometrics degrees, which I would say would be sort of similar. But that's not what my degree's in. Cool. So I hope this helped. I know this was just like a lot of math and thinking about things and like language specific stuff, but if you're new to the area, hopefully this will be helpful. And I'll upload this to my GitHub right after this. And if you are interested in using this code for your own thing, all you should have to do is put your download the R file, install R, download the R file. You'll probably get warnings about needing to install these, so install these particular packages. And then change the file name right here. And that should be the only thing that is dependent on the file itself. And everything else should work and be extensible and correct for various files. So yeah, so you should be able to use this as well. Robbie has an econometrics degree. Oh, fun. Thank you, Mina. Thanks for joining. Have a great weekend, y'all. Relax, get some rest, do something fun, take care of yourselves. And I will see you on Wednesday for our next office hours, which will be with, ooh, I think it's with Maddie. Let me double check. I don't want to lie. It's with Lawrence. Lawrence is amazing. I don't think he's been on the channel yet. Y'all will love him. He's so good. So yeah, we'll be back next week with Lawrence for office hours on Wednesday. And if you haven't yet, you should sign up for L3AI, which is our free conference. It's going to be on June 17th. We've got some great panels. We've got some great speakers. I'm giving a talk about becoming a Rasa developer and sort of the steps that people go through to do that, and how to grow from where you are right now. And yeah, have a great weekend. I've talked enough. My voice is going. Nice to talk to you all, and I'll